Back here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Producer Evan behind the glass, Chris Schubert with you. Hour number 2 of the program. 10 minutes from now, we'll discuss the two major bats that right now are struggling for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But right now, Kyler Murray. Feels like we can't go a couple of days without discussing the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals and what he means to the success of this squad in 2025. Producer Evan, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you were ranking quarterbacks going into the 2025 season, the personal producer Evan list of quarterbacks going into 2025.
Of course, I've always considered myself a little bit of a quarterback guru.
Yeah, so that's why we turn to you in these spots.
Of course.
Kyler Murray would be in what range on your list?
Somewhere from 14 to 18.
So QB 14 to QB 18.
I think that might be a tad high, too. I think it could be 16 to 20.
Okay.
I'll give you 14 to 20.
14 to 20. That's a big range, but okay. You want Kyler Murray, in your mind, somewhere in the range of, if you actually sat down and did the list, QB 14 to QB 20. That's how you view him going into the 2025 season. Yes?
Yeah.
Pro Football Focus wrote a story ranking all 32 starters ahead of the 2025 season, and they put them into buckets. They had their elite buckets. Patrick Mahomes was 1, Joe Burrow 2, Lamar Jackson 3, Josh Allen 4. Those are the 4 guys in the elite tier. Then the second tier was high-end starters. Jalen Hurts at 5, Jaden Daniels at 6, Matthew Stafford at 7, Justin Herbert at 8. Then they had tier 3A, solid starters who have flashed high-end play. Jared Goff 9, Geno Smith 10, Brock Purdy 11. And they had tier 3B, solid starters, but they need more help. Jordan Love was 12, Baker Mayfield was 13, CJ Stroud was 14, and Kyler Murray of your Arizona Cardinals sat at 15th on this list. If Kyler Murray plays exactly to where he is on this PFF list, or if he plays exactly to the range of outcomes that producer Evan said, QB 14 to QB 20, I ask all of you, is that going to be quarterback play? Statistically, the eye test results, is that going to be quarterback play that matches up with a team that makes the playoffs? Can the Arizona Cardinals afford Kyler Murray to be quarterback 15? Or in producer Evan's world, QB 14 to QB 20? Can they afford him to be on that spot of the list and make the playoffs? Because I would argue no. I would argue that they need him to be a top 10 quarterback at best. Because let's look at this list that PFF had. Let's see how far down the list we have to get before we find the first quarterback that didn't make the playoffs last year. Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. They made the playoffs last year. Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. They didn't make the playoffs last year, but you expect them to be a perennial playoff team. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, made the playoffs. Josh Allen, the Bills, made the playoffs. Did the Eagles make the playoffs? Jalen Hurts? He was in there, right? He participated.
Oh, gosh.
I can't remember.
I know they picked late in the draft. I can't remember.
Remember, they traded up a spot. They didn't like their spot, and they moved up one spot.
But that's what happens when you win a Super Bowl.
Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders, made the playoffs. Matt Stafford, Los Angeles Rams, made the playoffs. Justin Herbert, Los Angeles Chargers, made the playoffs. Jared Goff, Lions, made the playoffs. First 9 quarterbacks on this list made the playoffs. They have Kyler Murray at 15. Quarterbacks directly in front of him. CJ Stroud made the playoffs last year. Baker Mayfield made the playoffs last year. Jordan Love made the playoffs last year. Geno Smith is at 10. Brock Purdy is at 11. Those guys didn't make the playoffs last year. But overall, more often than not, if you get QB 15 play, you're not going to be a playoff team. Because how many quarterbacks behind Kyler Murray made the playoffs last year? Bo Nix in Denver. They have J.J. McCarthy for Minnesota. Minnesota made the playoffs last year. How many teams make the playoffs without top 10, top 12 quarterback play? Look at the playoff teams from a year ago. Buffalo in the AFC East. The Ravens. The Chiefs. The Chargers. All teams that have great quarterbacks. In the NFC side of things, Hurts, Daniels. Goff, Love, Darnold, now McCarthy, Baker, Stafford. Where does Kyler stack up against those quarterbacks? He doesn't. Sure. Could you potentially sneak in if he's quarterback 13 or quarterback 14? Sure. Bo Nix did in Denver. Sure. The Pittsburgh Steelers got into the playoffs.
All right, let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Here. Bo Nix or Kyler Murray?
Talent-wise, I would take Kyler Murray.
Next year.
I would take Kyler Murray.
Murray. Geno Smith or Kyler Murray?
I would take Kyler Murray.
Tua Tagovailoa or Kyler Murray?
I would take. What is the health situation of Tua?
Let's say a healthy Tua.
Tua.
Okay. Trevor Lawrence or Kyler Murray?
Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. So you have, on that, to me, puts Murray at 16.
Just looking at the playoff teams from a year ago. Buffalo made the playoffs, right? Good quarterback. Kansas City made the playoffs. Good quarterback. Baltimore, good quarterback. Houston, good quarterback. Chargers, good quarterback. Pittsburgh, that's the first team in the AFC where you go, they didn't really have great quarterback play. Good coaching, good defense. They do a lot of smoke and mirrors. Mike Tomlin's not allowed, based on the NFL rules, to have a below 500 record, so they're always going to be in there. Okay. Pittsburgh gets in at 10-7. Do you really want to be the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is that the franchise that you want to emulate right now? I know the history. I know all the championships. But do you really want to be a team that maxes out at about 10 wins and at least in the last 6 seasons hasn't won a playoff game? Is that really the model you want to follow?
Well, maybe not for football, but other teams in town have invoked that name.
Sure.
When saying
again, winning culture, no doubt about it.
Yeah, no doubt.
If the Cardinals want to break through, and they want to be a playoff team, they need to be more like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens. Those teams have great quarterbacks. The Broncos made the playoffs as the 7th seed. Do you really want to be the Broncos? What's their ceiling?
I don't know. This year they're pretty good. That defense is pretty good.
Sure.
Now, the question isn't defense, but the
question is the quarterback.
Broncos are better than people expect. But that defense is really.
But the question is the quarterback. Nobody wonders if the Baltimore Ravens are going to make the playoffs next year. Why? Because they have a franchise quarterback. The question is, yeah, Denver's good, but are they going to get good quarterback play? Yeah, Pittsburgh's good, but are they going to get good quarterback play? So you might be able to sneak in as a wild card team in the NFC if Kyler Murray is outside of the top 10. If he's QB 11 through 15. You might be able to be Denver. You might be able to be Pittsburgh. You might be able to be Tampa or Minnesota now with J.J. McCarthy. You might be able to be those teams. But if you want to be Detroit, if you want to be Philadelphia, if you want to be Kansas City or Buffalo or the top upper echelon teams that break through and win a Super Bowl, you betcha Kyler Murray has to play like a top 10 quarterback.
Looking at the guys on the quarterback list from 10 to wherever Murray sits, but I think a lot of people would have these names over him: Goff, Mayfield, Purdy, Prescott. Those sit in the 10 to 14 range, wherever you want to put them.
Give me those names again.
Goff, Purdy, Mayfield, Prescott.
Goff, Purdy,
Lawrence, Tua.
Just those first 4.
Yep.
Goff, Mayfield, Purdy, Prescott. What is the overwhelming year-to-year conversation in Dallas? Do we have a quarterback that can win a big game and win us a Super Bowl? What is the overwhelming conversation in Detroit? Do we have enough? Is Goff really the right guy? We've got a great roster. We got banged up, but what happened in the playoffs last year? Yeah. Mayfield, what is his ceiling? Tampa's kind of feel like they max out every year. They win double-digit games. They win a soft division. But when they have to then play Philadelphia or play Detroit or play these good teams in the playoffs.
Well, Philadelphia, they seem to beat every year.
But you know what I mean. When they go up against the upper echelon teams in the NFC, they seem to be a step behind. Why? Because of the quarterback play. Purdy got to a Super Bowl. Doesn't have a ring to show for it, though. Questions about whether or not he can win. All of those quarterbacks that you named, the tier where Kyler sits right now, are all quarterbacks where their fan bases, their radio hosts, their podcasters, their media members wonder aloud, do they have a quarterback that can win them the Super Bowl? That's not the group you want to be in. Now, yes.
I'm throwing Herbert in that group too, side note. But
Herbert way more talented than those
way
guys.
Way more, but yes, same conversation.
Fair enough. And he'll be in there if another year passes and they don't have a signature moment, right? Maybe they upset the Bills on the road or upset the Chiefs on the road. If they don't have a signature moment like that, then yeah, you're going to be resigned to the same conversation as Dak, as Goff, as Purdy, as all those guys. You betcha. But, and I know, you got to walk, jog, run, make the playoffs, and then move on. But I ask you this. Look at the teams that made the playoffs last year and look at the quarterback play that they got. Kyler Murray has to be in that group, and I don't know if he can be. If he is quarterback 15 or worse, they are not going to be a playoff team. I don't care how good their defense is. I don't care how good their running game is. I don't think they've made enough improvements to be a top 5 defense in the league. They're a better defense. They're not an elite defense. You want to cover up the flaws of your franchise quarterback? You want to cover up the flaws that your offense may have? You need to have an elite defense. I do not think this defense is elite. Perhaps they will prove me wrong, but as we sit here right now, I do not think this defense is an elite, got to be talked about in a top 5 defense conversation.
No, they're not going to be. To me, Denver is a playoff team next year, not because of the quarterback, because of the defense. I don't put the Cardinals in that same conversation. You don't put them in the conversation of the Steelers are going to win games with smoke and mirrors and they're going to play good defense. You don't put them in that conversation. But where do you line up in the NFC against quarterbacks? That's the conversation. And we can look at the league and the AFC, and the quarterback play is better in the AFC. It just
100%.
Is what it is. So you have this opportunity, if you're Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, to be an upper echelon quarterback in the NFC. You can't get beat out like by teams like the Vikings. We're going to have J.J. McCarthy make a few of his first starts. There's going to be several teams. Jordan Love, the conversation in Green Bay and what that team looks like. Detroit, 2 of those teams are not going to win that division. You have to be in that conversation with those quarterbacks, with those teams.
And I think you are only in those conversations if Kyler Murray plays like a top 10 quarterback. If he plays more towards his ceiling than he does his floor. I think if he plays more towards his floor, we're not having a playoff conversation with this team. We're just not.
They're 7-9 or 7-10.
7-10, please. We play 17 games now, please. 7-10. He needs to be a top 10 quarterback if they are going to make the postseason. Yeah. Because if you look at that list where he sits and you look at the quarterbacks in front of him and you look at the quarterbacks that made the playoffs last year, he can't play the way that he played last year. If he was around a middle-of-the-road quarterback last year and it wasn't good enough. They weren't able to win enough games at the tail end of the season. 480-864-1060 is the phone number. You can also join us over on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube live stream. Eric over there says Bo Nix is good. Took Denver to the playoffs his rookie year. I can create a list. We won't. We've had a bunch of lists on the program this week. I could do a list of rookie quarterbacks who early on in their career had a brief playoff run and then did nothing the rest of their career.
Mark Sanchez.
You didn't need to go there, but sure.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't
no,
need,
I did. But
you didn't need to do that, but fair enough.
But no, similar. Like in my head, similar. And Mark went to back-to-back AFC title games.
He went to back-to-back AFC title games. Yes, he did. You can go up and down the board. Just pick a franchise. You can look at a quarterback that had a brief little bit of success, but it didn't have staying power. If Bo Nix can show that he has staying power, and Bo Nix can be the reason why Denver wins games, then yeah, he is good and we can take him more seriously. I'm not ready to make that proclamation after just 1 year.